Welcome to Candlewick Library. I'm Cheryl. Today I'm doing the Prairie Trail Tag. This was created by Anne at In Search of Wonder for her Prairie Trail readathon this month. I was tagged by Anne. She came up with some really creative prompts that go along with the whole idea of the Prairie Trail readathon. So number one is stocking up and starting off. If I was to go on a trip today or tomorrow, what 2 books would I take with me? And this is supposed to be whatever books I'm reading right now. So just today I started The Riders of the Purple Sage by Zane Grey. This is a Western. It's one of the first Westerns, and so far I'm enjoying it. I'm about 75 pages in, so I would want to take this with me to continue reading it. And then one of the books that I'm reading in the morning right now is Let Beauty Speak by Jimmy Mitchell. This has been so good so far. He goes through 10 principles that bring beauty to the forefront of your life in a world of noise and sometimes ugliness. I am really enjoying reading a chapter out of this every day, so I would want to bring this as well. I think that we were supposed to pick something besides the Bible, so I'm going to go with those 2. If not, then the Bible would replace probably the Purple Sage. Actually, you know what? I have the Bible on my phone. I would just bring it on my phone, and I would bring both of those still. Number 2, Injury and Disease. What health or wellness / nutrition nonfiction book has been the most helpful or informative for you? I had to think about this for a minute because I don't read very many books about that subject. I've read some things, like some cookbooks that have nutritional information, but nothing has stuck out to me as something that was life-changing. So then what came to my mind was Anxious for Nothing by John MacArthur. I read this when I was just dealing with a lot of hard things a few years ago, and so I was feeling more anxious, and it was very helpful. I don't necessarily say I would agree with every single thing written in this book, but there were definitely a lot of things that were really helpful to me. During that time, whenever my anxiety got really bad, I actually pulled up on YouTube this video of John MacArthur singing Great Is Thy Faithfulness, which is one of my favorite hymns, and one of my favorite scriptures is where that hymn came from. And so I kind of associate him with that, with helping me when I'm anxious to center me on God. And so I would say that probably would be something in the health and wellness. Number 3, Wagon Repair. Is there a book you own that is in very poor condition and or has been repaired, but you keep it because of sentimental or other reasons? I have a few of these. First, I will show the most recent of the 4, my Harry Potter copy. So this is the very first Harry Potter book in the first edition of the paperbacks here in the United States, and you can see that it is not doing very well. I've probably had this for 27-ish years, right? Since this came out. So it has been read a lot. So that one has a lot of wear and tear. And then even older than that are my copies of Anne of Green Gables and Emily of New Moon from when I was a child. I got Anne of Green Gables first when I was 9, and it's taped together on the sides and it's got stains on it. And Emily is also taped together and has stains on it. So these are in terrible condition. I have new copies, but I would never want to get rid of these ones. Same with Harry Potter, because they were the first ones I read, and so they do hold a ton of sentimental value to me. But the one that I think of the most, probably the book that I own that is in the absolute worst condition. It is a very sentimental book to me. I read it a lot when I was a little kid. 5 Little Peppers and How They Grew. And this is my copy of that. So it's been taped multiple times, but it's not together. It's fallen apart completely. So this is by Margaret Sidney. In fact, the back comes off too. Yeah, the back comes off too. So this is what my copy looks like. I keep it on my shelf just like this. One of these days I'll try to tape it back together again. But this is definitely the worst condition of any book I own. And you can tell I read this so many times as a child that the cover fell off. Number 4 is Hunting. What author or genre or titles do you specifically look for when browsing through used books, little free libraries, things like that? So I would say that usually when I am going to a little free library or a used bookstore where it is more of a browsing situation, I'm really just looking for any authors that I've read and liked. So that would take too long to name everybody. Just anything that draws my attention, and then I look at the blurb and see if it sounds interesting. But in general, a lot of times I'm looking for really interesting nonfiction or middle grade that looks good, because those tend to be the easiest to pick out and to find. Number 5 is Cooking Over a Campfire. What is your favorite cookbook? I don't use cookbooks very often. Most of my cooking is just things from recipes I'm trying that are new that I found online, or it's recipes I've been using forever. I have cookbooks, but I don't use them very often, so I don't really have a favorite. When I thought of favorite cookbook, what I immediately go to is when my kids were little. That is when we used cookbooks a lot. We would have lots of little tea parties when my girls were really small, and we used the American Girl cookbooks. We had a fairy cookbook from Usborne Books. Those were really fun. In fact, the fairy one I probably used the most out of those ones. But the other one that we really loved and we used a lot and has still been used occasionally is the Berenstain Bears Country Cookbook. Cub-friendly cooking with an adult, and it has 40 recipes. So there's been a few times when my kids have still done recipes from here. In fact, let's see which one is marked, because there is a little tag in here. Let's see what was in, oh, it's just banana and peanut butter sandwiches. So it's very, very simple recipes, and they all have kind of a Berenstain Bear type of theme. It's something the bears would eat. Applesauce. Things like that. So this one has a lot of good memories associated with it. Number 6, fort or town restocking. Where do you source most of your books? So right now, I get the majority of the books that I buy from Happy Book Stack. It's a little used bookstore in, I believe it's Linden or Pleasant Grove, Utah. So we don't go very often because it's a ways away from us. They sell books, movies, homeschool curriculum, and they are very well organized. So it is a used bookstore that is so easy to use. And also they buy your stuff back from you. So I have taken a lot of things in there, and it has been a very long time since I've actually paid cash there, because I took a lot of things in that they bought, homeschool curriculum and books, and I've been using credit ever since. So I think I still have about $75 worth of credit there, but I also have another bag to take. So I love the store. The people there are really nice. The store is so well laid out, so well organized. It's clean, and they have had a really good selection. Every time I've gone, I think I've bought stuff there. I just went there last week and I found some really great finds. So that is where I love to go the most. But other than that, you know, there's independent bookstores that I really enjoy in Utah. And I've made a whole video about last year visiting a bunch of them. So I told on there what my favorite ones were. And so all of those bookstores. And then I do buy books from Amazon and from Baker Bookhouse occasionally. Number 7, grief and loss. What books would you be most loath to part with if you were ever forced to downsize your library? That would be my new Anne of Green Gables books, but probably my old ones. Probably my very first copies of the series would be the ones that I would want the most, because I couldn't repurchase those. The Harry Potter, the same thing. The first 2 books I bought in paperback, but then the rest of the series I got as they came out. So I have all of the first editions of the United States ones. And I think that even though I love my British versions, my British editions, I probably would want to keep those, the first ones that I ever read. I also think of things like, we have a full set of the Beatrix Potter books, and those are pretty sentimental to me. I would hate to get rid of any of my books that I love, but those are the ones that if I had to have less than, 20 books or less than 30 books, then those are the ones that would for sure be kept. Number 8, river crossing. What is a book that always refreshes and encourages you, or a book that you return to again and again? I brought over 2 that I thought of. The first one I thought of was Reclaiming Quiet, which I recently reviewed. This is by Sarah Clarkson, and I've read this twice now, and I can see that I will be returning to this book over and over again, but I feel like this answer could go for any of the Clarkson's books. One of my other favorite ones from the parents, from Clay and Sally Clarkson, is Educating the Wholehearted Child. This is a book that I wish so badly I could send back through time to myself when I had little kids. It's definitely geared more towards homeschooling, but I think it's, in general, the best parenting book, the best homeschooling book. This would have been so helpful to me when my kids were little. Number 9, Desert Crossing. What is a dry and boring book you couldn't wait to finish, but you did? This is one that I cannot think of a really good answer. I can think of a book that I hated that I finished, and that was The Sound and the Fury by William Faulkner. I did finish it, and I hated it, and I did find a lot of it boring, but that wasn't the main reason I hated it. Number 10, Mountain Crossing. What is a book you have read that was very heavy, either in page count, weight, or subject matter? I've read a lot of books with heavy subject matter, so I was trying to decide which one to talk about for this that maybe isn't one I've talked about a lot. And the book that came to my mind when I was trying to think about what one of the heaviest books I've ever read is The Sound of Gravel by Ruth Warner. I don't own that one. I got it from the library many years ago. And it is the story of a girl who grew up in a polygamous group. When the Mormon church first said we don't do polygamy anymore, and they put out things saying that they didn't do it anymore, they sent some groups to different places like Mexico to secretly keep doing it. And her family was one of the ones that were down there because of that. So she was raised in a rural farm in Mexico. She was the 39th of 42 children. And so it was her story of growing up in that environment, in that family, and it was extremely heavy. She was physically and sexually abused. There was a sibling who died in a really traumatizing way. It was a hard book to read. Number 11, choose your ending. So you have to choose to either die of dysentery, and you have to name some channels based on that, or B, you have arrived at Willamette Valley and you have to tag 3 BookTube besties you hope will be your next door neighbors in that valley. So I'm, of course, going to not want to die of dysentery, so I'm going to pick 3 people. There are a lot of you that I would love to have as neighbors. I wanted to pick 3 people I don't think I've ever tagged or I haven't tagged for a long time. So I want to tag Shannon at Old American Spirit, Haley at Humbly Haley, and Allie at What's Allie Reading. Don't feel pressured. If you want to do the tag, do it. If you don't, you can come be my neighbor anyway.